Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, time for Wisdom Wednesday. Hope you're doing well out there. It's been kind of a interesting week with the dark clouds and rain. Happy to have it though, and looking forward to some pretty significant heat coming up soon, so need to get ready for that. I just want to talk today a little bit about stress and anxiety and dig deep into the stress response. We've just been seeing a lot of anxiety lately, and wanted to give you some ideas about, and kind of in review the stress response, but give you a tool really in the moment, something that you can do to mitigate some of the aspects of that stress response so that it doesn't over respond and put you in a state that would have more perpetual anxiety. We know that we often live in this chronic stress response, and certainly we've seen that in the last several years, but it just has continued. And this stress response is something that our bodies have had from the beginning of time, but not something that we've had to deal with. And there are internal stresses, there are environmental, external stresses that we're all faced with day in and day out. But it's really important in order to calm the body down so that it can really stay focused on the jobs at hand rather than having to deal with this internal milieu of just anxiety and stress and all the hormones and all of the molecules that are associated with that. And perhaps we can just have a quick way of toning that down. Before we really get into that, which is really a quick thing we can talk about, and we will, I just wanted to review a little bit about this stress response. So we have two major hormones in the body that control just general aspects of just living that we cannot live without. There's insulin and there's cortisol. And insulin pretty much just travels by itself, but cortisol travels with epinephrine and norepinephrine, and this is basically adrenaline, and another hormone called glucagon. Now, these are what are called counter-regulatory hormones, so they go with cortisol. Cortisol doesn't travel alone. It has these friends that are always with it. And it is that extra part, that adrenaline and that glucagon, which really are responsible for most of the aspects of this stress response. Cortisol in and of itself and with these hormones will increase heart rate, it increases blood pressure, it increases breathing rate. So all of that is part of that stress response. It also increases sweating, muscle tension, it changes our digestion, and it can also suppress the immune system. Now, these are all important things that need to happen if we are in an emergency situation and we need to, lift heavy objects or leap from tall buildings, things like this. This is just that major stress response, that fight or flight that we've heard so much about, right? And we know that that is something that is innate within us that we need to have, but it's not something that we want to perpetuate. So the long-term effects of this can be pretty significant. It's estimated that over 75% of just visits to physicians are related to this major stress response. The aspects of high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety, sleep problems, headaches, digestive issues, muscle pain and weight gain are all part of this response. I've had more folks in recently complaining of this sort of middle excess of weight along the middle, which is related to cortisol. And it's one of those things that in the long term obviously has detrimental effects to our health. So we need to have some tools of managing this particular issue. And one of those that's very simple to do for all of us is just breathing. There is a lot of value, and the science would support that learning how to do certain types of breath work can be very beneficial to lower and temper and mitigate that fight or flight response. Different types of breathing. There's just diaphragmatic breathing. For any of you who have taken a yoga class or Pilates, you understand the importance of that belly breath, of pushing that diaphragm down and having that big breath. And what happens when you have a big breath is that it expands the lungs. It then allows the heart to descend a little bit and to fill. And during that inhalation, heart rate will go up. And when you breathe out, heart rate goes down as the heart shrinks. There's this aspect of decreased flow and a signal to the brain when you take a deep breath in that the heart needs to increase its heart rate, so it does. And then when you breathe out, it reduces. And this is when we measure certain things here in the office, we'll often measure heart rate variability, that aspect of your heart rate that changes with breathing. That's a natural response, and it should be variable. You should have variation in your heart rate. Our heart rate should not just go beep, 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 beep. It should beep, 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 beep. Anyway, it should change when you are breathing. And people who don't have that variability, we sense that there are a lot of issues that are negatively affecting health when your heart rate variability is not very robust. So taking deep breaths are very beneficial. So there's that diaphragmatic breathing. There's also the box breath where you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 4, you breathe out for 4, and you hold it again for 4. And that's something that you can do as well. Another type of breathing is a double inhalational breath. But you always want that exhalation to be longer than the inhalation, to allow that heart rate to fall. Again, remember when you're breathing out, heart rate will fall. And then the other type of breathing is called the 4-7-8 breath, which we've taught a lot here for folks to help with that stress response, in that you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 7, and then out through your mouth for a count of 8. And you can repeat that. A lot of times, something you can do at red lights, just like we talked an awful lot in the past about Kegel exercises. Those are something you can do at red lights, but that breath work you can do, especially if you are feeling anxious, heading to work, or going to a meeting, etc., or just in traffic. Just take those nice slow breaths to lower just that cortisol response and lower that adrenaline response and lower the glucagon that is increasing blood sugar. And this will help in a lot of areas of your life in terms of just helping you feel better, helping you be able to respond well when stress comes, just knowing that you have a tool that can lower heart rate. We know there are other things too. We know with just high intensity interval work, learning how to lower that heart rate, it's increasing the side of your nervous system called the parasympathetic tone. The parasympathetic side. We've got fight or flight, which is the sympathetic side of our autonomic nervous system. And the parasympathetic side is that rest and digest. And by targeting that and by getting that and developing that as a tool, you may find that it's very beneficial. So hopefully you now have just a small little tool that will be very beneficial, but something pack away, keep that in your mind, however you choose to do it, whether it's a box breath, the diaphragmatic breathing, the double inhalation, or the 4-7-8. Any of those can be very helpful to just increase parasympathetic tone. Hopefully that's been helpful for you all. You have a great week and restful week. Celebrate your dads if they're here, and enjoy. Hopefully we're going to get some clearing of all the rain and clouds here, so we'll have a little bit more sunshine that will also help with parasympathetic tone and helping our mood as well. Have a great weekend. Till next week.